They're not like everyone else. Not in the way they speak, not in the way they see the world, not in the way they think. You call them billionaires, icons, titans, visionaries. But that's just a title, a consequence. What you're really seeing, what you're really chasing is a way of thinking. Because before they had wealth, before they had power, before they had buildings and books and companies named after them, they had a mind that refused to stay average. And that's what you're here for, isn't it? Not just to get rich, but to transform, to step outside the maze of mediocrity and start thinking in a way that makes everything shift. Your thoughts are the blueprint, your beliefs are the architecture, and your decisions, they are the bricks, one by one, laid in silence, stacked through storms, until the life you imagine becomes the empire you live in. So let's rip the lid off what the world told you. You've been taught that success is for the chosen, that money follows luck, that power belongs to the already powerful. That's not truth. That's programming. That's the echo of small minds passed down through broken systems. You don't rise by accident, you rise by design. And that design starts in your thoughts, not someday, but now. You want to think like a billionaire? Then you need to think like someone who's done waiting for approval, done waiting for timing, done waiting to be ready. Billionaires don't wait, they don't hesitate, they don't ask the world to shift, they build a new one and dare the world to adjust. You're not poor because of your resources. You're poor mentally, emotionally, financially because of your standards. And once you raise your standards, once you refuse to think like a consumer, a follower, a victim, you will change everything. Let's go deeper. Most people think like survivalists. They think in minutes and hours. They think about bills. They think about distractions. They think about what they can escape today, not what they can build forever. But billionaires don't think in days. They think in decades. They think in systems, in leverage, in legacy. Where others ask, what's the fastest way? They ask, what's the smartest way? Even if it's slower. Where others chase approval, they chase asymmetry. Doing work today that pays off for life. They play the long game in a world addicted to short hits. They think like creators in a world of consumers, and they protect their vision like it's oxygen because it is. You want to think like a billionaire? Then protect your time, protect your energy, protect your mental bandwidth like it's your most precious currency because it is. Now let's talk about belief, not the fluffy kind, not affirmations you don't mean. I'm talking about aggressive self-belief, the kind that feels unreasonable to everyone but you. When Henry Ford said he'd build a car the average man could afford, they laughed. When Elon Musk said he'd colonize Mars, they laughed harder. When Oprah spoke with power in a world that told her to stay small, they called her delusional. But they moved anyway, they built anyway, they believed anyway, and that belief didn't come from evidence, it came from decision. Because billionaires don't need permission to believe in their vision, they declare it. They understand what Napoleon Hill knew all along. Whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. The average person hears that and thinks it's poetic. The billionaire hears that and treats it like law. So what do you believe right now? Be honest. Do you believe you can lead? Do you believe you deserve to be wealthy? Do you believe your life has value at a global level? Because if not, you're building your own ceiling. And until that belief changes, your outcomes won't. But belief without clarity is a dream with no coordinates. Billionaire thinking demands clarity of vision. Crystal clear, razor sharp, non-negotiable clarity. They don't move aimlessly, they don't guess, they define. They define what they want, they define who they are, they define what matters and what doesn't. And most of all, they define what they're willing to suffer for. Because clarity doesn't mean comfort, it means knowing the storm is coming and building anyway. Do you know where you're going? Do you know what you'll never tolerate again? Do you know what version of yourself has to die for the next one to be born? Because billionaires don't rise by improving their lives, they rise by reinventing their identity. Billionaires don't just work harder, they don't just work smarter. They work from a level of discipline that most people will never touch. Not the kind of discipline that shows up when it's easy. Not the kind that disappears when the motivation fades. I'm talking about non-negotiable standards. They don't need to feel like it. They don't wait for the perfect mood. They command themselves because they understand discipline isn't punishment, it's self-respect. It's the highest form of self-love, doing what needs to be done because the vision demands it. Most people are ruled by their emotions. Billionaires, they rule their emotions. Where most people say, I don't feel like it today, billionaire thinkers say, my feelings are irrelevant to my execution. They have the same distractions, the same insecurities, the same human doubts, but they don't answer to those feelings, they answer to the mission. That's the difference. And that difference, it's the gap between wishing and wealth. Let's talk about emotional control, because this is where most people break. They let criticism destroy them. They let failure define them. They let comfort seduce them into softness. But when you think like a billionaire, you don't see obstacles emotionally, you see them logically. You look at problems like puzzles. You separate fact from feeling. You don't make decisions based on fear, you make them based on strategy. That's why they can take losses publicly. That's why they can invest in risky ideas. That's why they can keep moving through lawsuits, betrayals, market crashes, failure after failure, and come back even stronger. Because their emotional resilience is engineered, not inherited, not gifted, built through setbacks, through rejection, through repetition. They get sharper while most people get softer. And let's be clear, they fail more than you. They fail faster than you. They fail bigger than you. But here's the part people miss. They don't internalize failure, they analyze it. Most people fail and say, I'm not good enough. Billionaire thinkers fail and say, interesting, let's adjust. They remove the emotion and extract the lesson. They treat failure as a data point, not a death sentence. Because to them, failure is just feedback. It's the tuition for greatness. It's the rent you pay for building anything exceptional. Look at Edison, 10,000 failed experiments to get the light bulb. Look at Disney, bankrupt, rejected by dozens of studios, told he had no imagination. Look at Sarah Blakely, couldn't afford a prototype, pitched in department stores with zero experience. The difference? They kept going. They understood what you must understand now. You are not your failure. You are not your delay. You are not your last result. You are what you do next. But instead commit to the process with your whole being. When you no longer chase praise, but instead sharpen your inner scorecard. When you stop reacting to life and start creating it. Because billionaire thinkers don't wait for life to reward them. They construct their own economy. They don't look for permission. They look for leverage. They don't just work for income. They think in impact. They study how to multiply their time, how to scale their influence, how to automate results instead of chasing them every day. They don't ask, how can I earn more this month? They ask, how can I build something that earns for the next 10 years? That's why they build systems, teams, ownership, intellectual property, equity, because they think like builders, not laborers, like owners, not employees, like architects, not spectators. And the world doesn't teach you this, because if you think like a billionaire, you won't need the system. You won't beg for opportunity, you'll generate it. That's dangerous, that's powerful. That's why so many are taught to stay in line, to play it safe, to ask for raises instead of building revenue. But you're not here to be one of the many, you're here to become one of the few who think beyond survival, the few who see past limitation, the few who understand there is no external permission slip for greatness. It is a declaration you make with your time, your choices, your vision, your thoughts. At the center of every billionaire's mindset is one thing, decision, not hesitation, not overthinking, decision, and not the kind you reverse next week, not the kind you negotiate with your fear, the kind that's final, the kind that says, this is who I am now, and I will build the life that matches it. See, most people flirt with greatness. They date the dream. They think about change like it's an outfit they might try on someday. But billionaires, they marry their mission. They don't wake up hoping to be consistent. They wake up as consistency. They don't question whether they'll follow through. It's already done. They've already decided who they are, and they act from that identity. That's why their results are predictable. That's why their routines are lethal. That's why their lives move forward while others loop in confusion. Because every day, they recommit to the decision that changed everything. You don't get to your next level by making more choices. You get there by removing unnecessary ones. That's the secret no one talks about. People think billionaires have a million options, but the truth is, they've simplified everything. They decide what matters, they eliminate what doesn't, and they build their lives around focus. They don't spend hours wondering what to wear. They don't jump between 10 projects. They don't chase every new idea that comes across their screen. They lock in on one thing, one outcome, one vision, and they bring the full force of their attention to it until the world has no choice but to respond. You want to think like a billionaire? Then master this, the power of decisive clarity. Stop leaving open loops. Stop second-guessing what you already know. Stop tolerating environments that dilute your focus. This isn't about doing more. This is about doing what matters, relentlessly. And that brings us to the most valuable currency a billionaire owns. Time. Not money, not talent, not attention. Time. Because time is the only thing you can't earn back. And billionaire thinkers treat it accordingly. They track it like an investor tracks cash. They audit it like a business. They protect it like it's sacred. You won't find them wasting hours in gossip. You won't find them aimlessly scrolling. You won't find them saying yes to things that don't align with where they're going, because they know your calendar reveals your character. If your time is disorganized, your vision is disconnected. If your days are full of noise, your life will stay small. But if you want expansion, if you want wealth, if you want to dominate time instead of chasing it, you have to become militant about your minutes. Own your morning, guard your evenings, structure your focus, because where your time goes, your life follows. That's why execution is the true flex. not vision boards, not long to-do lists, not how well you speak about your goals. Execution, the boring, unsexy, brutal consistency of doing the thing. The discipline to take your big vision and break it into repeatable action. Every day, no matter what, no matter how you feel, no matter who's watching. That's where results are born, not in the dream, in the discipline. Because let's be honest, everyone has dreams, everyone has ambition, everyone has big plans when they're motivated. But billionaires, they move through the drag, they execute when it's dark, they ship when it's scary, they commit when others fold, and because of that their lives compound. Results stack, systems multiply, time works for them instead of against them. That's not luck, that's execution driven by thought. See, the most dangerous person in the world is the one who knows what they want and takes daily action toward it, because nothing can stop them. They don't burn out, they don't get derailed by emotion, they don't need hype. They're powered by alignment, and alignment happens when your thoughts, your actions, and your standards all match your vision. When you wake up and live like it's already yours, when you no longer negotiate with laziness, when you stop needing to feel ready and start acting like you've already arrived. This is how billionaires think. They collapse the gap between their current state and their future reality through thought, belief, and behavior. They decide, they execute, and they adapt faster than anyone else. You will never build a billionaire life with a minimum wage identity, because no matter how skilled you are, how smart, how fast, how motivated, you will always return to the level of your self-image. Your identity is the thermostat of your life. You can temporarily spike your income, your discipline, your momentum, but if deep down you still see yourself as small, you'll self-destruct, because the outer world cannot outrun the inner standard. This is why billionaire thinkers spend more time crafting their identity than their goals, because once you know who you are, what you tolerate, what you don't, what you're committed to, everything else falls in line. Identity drives behavior, and behavior compounds into legacy. So the question is not what do you want, the question is who do you have to become to deserve it. That's the real transformation, not the stuff you show online, not the stuff that gets applause, but the quiet, ruthless process of shedding the version of you that's no longer qualified to hold your vision. The undisciplined you, the excuse-making you, the emotionally reactive you, the people-pleasing, easily distracted, approval-chasing you. You don't evolve by tweaking habits, you evolve by replacing identity. You don't wake up one day and feel like a billionaire, you act like one before the money arrives. You think like one before the team shows up. You move like one before the audience cares. Because when your identity levels up, the results will follow without force. The money will match the mindset, the life will match the standard. The world will meet you at the level you now meet yourself. This is why purpose is not optional, because the billionaire mind doesn't run on hype, it doesn't run on willpower, it runs on mission. Purpose is what fuels the ones who keep building when no one claps. It's what lights the fire when logic says stop. It's what makes silence feel sacred, instead of scary. Every empire you admire was built on a reason bigger than comfort. Steve Jobs didn't stay up all night perfecting details because he needed a bigger paycheck. He had purpose. Elon didn't sleep on factory floors because he was trying to prove something. He had mission. Oprah didn't transcend industries because she chased money. She chased impact. And that's the blueprint. That's how you hold momentum when others burn out. You align your action with something so much bigger than your mood, your fear, your likes, your bank balance. You stop moving for validation and start moving for legacy. And don't get it twisted. Purpose isn't found, it's chosen. You build it brick by doing work that matters to you, by solving problems that keep you up at night, by pursuing challenges that make you forget the clock. You feel your way into it, you act your way into it, and when it locks in, when it grabs your soul and refuses to let go, you become unbreakable. Because billionaires don't just work hard, they're obsessed, not with money, not with praise, with building what only they can see. It's not work for them, it's identity, it's oxygen, it's the thing that makes every setback worth it. You want to last long enough to win big, then anchor your grind in purpose, or you'll give up the first time it gets hard, and it will get hard. The world won't hand it to you. Your habits will fight you. Your past will whisper that it's safer to play small. And people, the ones you thought would support you, they'll doubt you. But billionaire thinking doesn't break under pressure. It sharpens, because pressure reveals the truth, who you really are, what you really believe, what you've actually built or not built inside. This is where the elite separate. They don't crumble, they don't cry for sympathy, they get sharper, they get quieter, they double down, because they understand that every test is building capacity, mental toughness, emotional endurance, spiritual depth. You think the people at the top had it easier? No, they had more resistance, but they welcomed it, because the pain is the proof that you're expanding. Billionaire minds love discomfort, not because they're masochists, but because they understand this law. Your next level lives inside the discomfort you've been avoiding, and so they run toward it. They make it a lifestyle. They turn pressure into progress. You're tired. Good. Do it tired. You're unsure. Good. Move anyway. You're afraid. Perfect. That means you're close. The people who have it all, they just stayed longer in the fire than everyone else. Not because they were stronger, but because they were more committed. You want to think like a billionaire? Then you need to kill your scarcity mindset for good, because wealth doesn't start in your bank account. It starts in your thinking.
if you believe money is evil, if you believe success is rare, if you believe rich people are lucky or corrupt, you will sabotage every opportunity that knocks, not because you don't have talent, but because your mind will reject the very thing you claim to want. That's what scarcity does. It makes you allergic to abundance. It whispers lies like, play it safe, don't risk it, be realistic. Someone else is already doing that. Who are you to think this big? And if you don't confront those lies, if you don't expose them, break them, and rebuild something stronger, you will never reach your next level, because wealth is not about how much you can make, it's about how deeply you believe you deserve it. Billionaire minds are trained to detach, not from purpose, not from commitment, but from outcomes. They don't obsess over how fast results come, they don't chase metrics, they chase motion. They're not needy for success, they're certain of it. And that certainty doesn't come from external proof, it comes from internal alignment. They know, if I move with clarity, if I show up with excellence, if I focus on systems instead of scoreboards, the results are inevitable. They don't ask how long will it take, they ask what do I need to become to make this real. That's detachment, and it's not weakness, it's power. It means you show up fully, without depending on the world to clap for you. It means you play for legacy, not for likes. And that brings us to the weapon that separates billionaires from everyone else: focus. Pure, obsessive, unapologetic focus. You know why most people stay stuck? It's not because they don't work hard, it's because their attention is scattered. They start 10 things and finish none. They dilute their time chasing shiny distractions. They confuse being busy with being built. They move different. They cut fast. They say no often. They don't multitask. They laser in. One goal, one mission, all energy aligned. They protect their mind like it's a nuclear asset because it is. No leaks, no drama, no time for noise, because they understand, you don't rise because you have time, you rise because you control it. And if your mind is cluttered, your future is compromised. This is why billionaires control their environment, not just their schedule, not just their calendar, their inputs. They are ruthless about what they allow into their mental ecosystem. They don't entertain gossip, they don't consume junk, they don't follow every trend. They choose books over opinions, they choose silence over noise, they choose strategy over stimulation, because they know, whatever gets your attention, gets your life, and every distraction you feed is a dream you delay. So the question is, who's running your mind? Is it you, or is it the world? Because billionaire thinking requires you to become dangerously intentional. You build the life you want, or you absorb the one you're given. There is no neutral, there is no just surviving. You're either shaping, or being shaped. And shaping reality is not fantasy for billionaire thinkers, it's daily practice. They understand a law most people never grasp. Your thoughts are construction tools. Every belief is a blueprint, every decision is a brick, and every action is cement. You are either building a castle or a cage, a life of purpose, or a prison of habits you didn't choose. So if you want a billionaire's reality, you need to build it thought by thought, moment by moment, system by system. You need to stop looking outside for breakthrough and start designing the inside to match the outcome you're chasing. This is not mindset fluff, this is architecture, this is math. This is how you shift timelines with decision and discipline. Because here's the truth no one says out loud: reality bends for those who are certain, not arrogant, not loud, not fake confident, but internally locked in. The kind of certainty that doesn't yell, it moves. The kind of certainty that scares people, because it can't be manipulated, it can't be shaken, it doesn't need agreement, it creates alignment. You walk like the vision is already yours. You speak like results are already done. You act like the world is simply catching up, and eventually it does. That's not delusion, that's how reality works when built by an unshakable mind. Billionaires don't just build wealth, they build leverage. They understand, you will run out of time long before you run out of ambition, unless you learn how to scale yourself. Most people trade time for money. Billionaires trade ideas for impact. They trade systems for scale. They trade leadership for legacy. They know they can't do it alone, and they don't try, because leverage is the great multiplier. It's how one decision can echo for decades. It's how one system can create generational ripple effects. It's how one leader can build 1,000 leaders without being in the room. Billionaire thinking says, how can I multiply this? How can I replace myself here? How can this keep growing without my hand on every lever? They don't try to be everywhere, they design systems that are. That's not laziness, that's intelligence. Because the real power isn't in doing everything, it's in building something so structured, so disciplined, so intentional, that it grows without you. And to do that they master one more truth: success is not a solo game. You can only build so far by yourself. Eventually your ability to create wealth will be capped by your ability to connect with people, with teams, with minds who think differently, with mentors who challenge your ceiling, with partners who expand your reach, with players who know how to execute the parts you don't. Billionaires build networks, not followings. They build alliances, not audiences. They don't collect people, they empower them. They don't control people, they inspire ownership. Because when the mission is real, people rise to it, and when the team is right, the vision scales faster than you ever could alone. The average thinker hoards power, the billionaire thinker distributes it, and that distribution, that's the foundation of a kingdom, not a hustle. But there's one more layer: reputation. Because while average minds focus on image, billionaire minds build something deeper, something longer lasting, something that speaks when they're not in the room. They build trust, they build respect, they build results so consistent, so precise, so undeniable, that their name alone opens doors. This isn't about branding, it's about integrity. Billionaire thinkers don't burn bridges, they don't break trust, they don't cut corners. Why? Because they play the long game. They understand that how you do things matters as much as what you do, that reputation is compound interest, that your name, your real name, is either building equity or quietly bleeding it away. And when your name becomes a guarantee of excellence, people come to you, opportunities chase you, the right doors unlock without you having to knock. And then, once all of that is in motion, the money, the team, the systems, the status, there's only one question left that billionaire thinkers ask themselves: what will outlive me? Because legacy is the final chapter, and only the bold get to write it. Legacy isn't about statues, it's not about headlines, it's not about how many people know your name, it's about what changes because you existed. It's about what continues to breathe, to build, to impact, even after you're gone. Billionaire minds don't chase moments, they build movements. They don't chase the short win, they build the next generation. They think in decades, sometimes centuries. They design systems their great-grandchildren will benefit from. They install values in their companies that shape cultures long after their hands are off the wheel, because they know, money fades, trends fade, but principle never dies. And here's the part that might shake you. You don't need billions to build legacy. You need clarity, you need standards, you need discipline and depth. You need to ask better questions, think longer term, lead yourself when it's hardest, operate like a builder when no one's clapping, and move with the certainty of a vision only you can see. That's the billionaire mindset, and it starts long before you see the money. It starts with how you wake up, how you think under pressure, how you treat others when there's nothing to gain, how you hold the standard when no one's watching. That's where wealth is born, that's where power is earned, that's where the world begins to shift, not because you forced it to, but because you became too disciplined, too consistent, too aligned to be ignored.
Billionaire thinking isn't about becoming more, it's about becoming new, because the old you can't carry the new life. The version of you that tolerates distractions, that delays hard conversations, that hides behind "I'm still figuring it out," that version has to go. Not because it's bad, but because it's done. That identity has run its course. Its beliefs are outdated. Its emotional ceiling is too low. Its tolerance for chaos is too high. Billionaires don't fix the old self. They replace it. They outgrow it like a snake shedding skin. And every time they do, they get lighter, sharper, and more aligned. This is why you'll see them shift industries, abandon ideas, burn models that made millions without flinching, because they're not loyal to the form. They're loyal to the mission. And if the mission demands a new identity, a new system, a new version of self, they don't hesitate. They evolve on command. Reinvention isn't a luxury for billionaire minds. It's survival. They know the world changes fast. Technology, behavior, markets, culture, all shifting like ocean currents. And if you cling to who you were, you'll drown in what's coming. So instead, they train for agility. They build mental range. They detach from ego because ego resists change. They stay curious. They stay light. They stay humble enough to rebuild again and again. Think about the legends. Jeff Bezos didn't stay a bookstore. He became infrastructure. Oprah didn't stay on daytime TV. She became an institution. Jay-Z didn't stay a rapper. He became a brand builder, investor, empire architect. The lesson: don't build your identity around a role, build it around a vision, and be ready to become whatever that vision demands next. And while the world screams louder, billionaire minds get quieter, because silence is not weakness, it's strategy. In silence, they think. In silence, they plot. In silence, they design moves 5 steps ahead, while the rest of the world argues over step 1. The average mind is addicted to noise, to validation, to being seen, to reacting. But the billionaire mind, it's addicted to precision, to control, to depth. They don't move for attention, they move for results. They don't explain themselves, they show you. They don't argue with critics, they outlast them. This is power, when your silence hits louder than someone else's noise, when your presence carries more weight than their performance, and you earn that power by doing the deep work no one claps for, by grinding in obscurity, by refining your edge in solitude, by mastering the art of moving quietly but landing loudly. This is why billionaire thinkers don't need external hype. They carry internal fire, a fire that doesn't burn out just because life gets hard, a fire that doesn't need a crowd to keep glowing, a fire that isn't fed by ego but by conviction. They know what they're building, they know what they're here to do, and no lack of applause can shake that. This internal fire, it's what gives them staying power. Most people sprint until they're tired. Billionaire minds pace themselves like marathon warriors because they're not in it for the moment. They're in it for the empire, so they build their routines like fortresses. They master their mornings. They manage their minds like assets. They say no 100 times for every yes, and they move like the world depends on their discipline, because in many ways it does. Because here's the hidden truth most people miss. The world doesn't change through hype. It changes through thought leadership backed by personal mastery. The kind of people who think differently and live aligned with that thinking. the kind who become so grounded, so intentional, so locked into their purpose that environments can't control them, markets can't derail them, criticism can't define them. They've built their minds like fortresses, their emotions like armor, their principles like scripture. They don't need to prove, they embody. And when you reach that level, you don't just build wealth, you reshape the world around you, because the world responds to those who respond to nothing but the call inside them. There's one thing that makes the billionaire mind untouchable: relentless drive fused with ruthless patience. Not one without the other, not hustle without wisdom, not patience without pressure. They move fast when needed and wait with calm when speed would cost them. They strike like lightning, but only after they've studied the storm. They're urgent about the process, not desperate for the result. That's the difference. They'll outwork anyone in the room, but they're not rushed by anyone in the world, because they've mastered the rhythm of greatness: fast action, long vision, deep stillness, strategic pressure, and most people can't hold all that at once. They either push too hard and burn out, or they wait too long and miss the window. But billionaires, they know how to hold tension. They don't pop under pressure, they compress it into power. They keep moving with intensity, even if results aren't visible yet, because they trust their execution, they trust the seed, they trust the season, and that trust, that's what keeps them climbing while everyone else is quitting. And that drive, that wild, relentless hunger, it doesn't come from needing more, it comes from becoming more. It's not about another zero in the bank account, it's about fulfilling the highest possibility of who they are. They don't chase comfort, they chase capacity. They don't care about ease, they care about expansion. Every challenge is a gym, every failure is resistance training, every delay is mental conditioning. They embrace hard things, they lean into pain, they practice discomfort like it's a ritual, because they know the easier your life gets, the harder your mind must become, or the dream dies. You don't protect a billion-dollar vision with a $10 mindset. You sharpen your edge. You build calluses where most people build excuses. You make peace with difficulty and let it develop you. And while the average person chases feelings, billionaire thinkers chase alignment. They know you won't always feel motivated. You won't always feel inspired. You won't always feel clear, but you can still act. You can still build. You can still stay in rhythm, because building a billion-dollar life isn't about how you feel, it's about how you operate. And when your values are higher than your moods, when your systems are stronger than your doubts, when your vision is more real to you than your current circumstances, you become dangerous, not to others, to your old limitations, to the part of you that used to quit early, to the part of you that used to need permission, to the part of you that made peace with being almost. That part starts to die, and the billionaire in you begins to rise. Then get obsessed with delayed gratification, because the greatest lives are bought with sacrifice. Everyone wants luxury, but few are willing to build the discipline that makes it sustainable. Everyone wants freedom, but few are willing to endure the constraint that creates it. Billionaires play chess while others chase dopamine. They skip the pleasure of now for the power of later. They don't take shortcuts. They don't cut deals with mediocrity. They don't cash out early when things get uncomfortable. They sit in the fire until the forge finishes its work. That's how you build something unshakable. And when the storms come, because they will come, billionaire minds don't beg the rain to stop. They become the ones who dance in it, move in it, build in it, because the weather doesn't control the architect. The economy doesn't scare the one who builds from principles. The headlines don't shake the person who's already fortified their belief. This is what makes the few unstoppable. They've chosen to master what can't be seen, and because of that, they command what eventually must be seen. Results, impact, legacy, not because they shouted for it, not because they chased it, but because they became the person who naturally produces it. They built a mind that outlasts noise, a focus that slices through chaos, a purpose that survives every storm. And when you live like that, you don't need to go viral. You become inevitable. And here's what they never tell you. You don't need to be a billionaire to think like one. You don't need private jets or press coverage. You don't need boardrooms or billion-dollar exits. You just need a mind that refuses to be common. Because billionaire thinking isn't about what you own, it's about what you command. The level of self-control, the clarity of thought, the depth of your focus, the force of your decisions, the alignment between your vision and your action. That's what separates them, and that's what's available to you right now. Not after the money, not after the followers, not after the degrees, now. Because every day you delay your evolution, you stay loyal to a smaller version of you, and you weren't built for small. You weren't born to float through life making just enough to survive. You weren't born to shrink every time life asks you to rise. You weren't born to die full of potential, heavy with regret. You were born to build, to impact, to change the game. Whatever your game is, that's what thinking like a billionaire means. It means you walk with standards that scare average minds. You operate with principles that don't bend in weak environments. You make decisions like a leader, not a bystander. You stop negotiating with distraction. You stop surrendering to fear. You stop watering down your dreams just to fit in. You rise, you act, you execute again and again and again until the world has to respond, until the world can't not notice,
until the world aligns with the gravity of who you've become, because here's the ultimate truth: the people who change the world are not waiting for it to give them permission. They're not sitting back hoping it gets easier. They're not hiding behind what-ifs. They're not trapped in excuses. They move, they decide, they command the future with vision and follow through. And when the noise gets loud, they get louder, but only in action. When the fear creeps in, they get sharper. When the path gets unclear, they build one. That's how power is earned. That's how leadership is forged. That's how lives and legacies are built. So if you're still listening, then maybe, just maybe, that next version of you is ready. The one who's tired of playing small, the one who's sick of almosts, the one who's ready to stop watching others rise and join them. Not in fantasy, in reality, because your next level is not waiting for more motivation. It's not waiting for the timing to be perfect. It's not waiting for you to be fearless. It's waiting for you to decide, to build the identity that matches the vision, to take the first disciplined, uncomfortable, no excuse action, to own the life that's been calling your name for too long. Because every second you wait, every day you delay, every excuse you justify, you're not just losing time, you're losing alignment. And alignment is everything. It's the key to momentum, the key to flow, the key to peace, the key to scale, the key to the life your future self will thank you for. So choose, right now, not later, not tomorrow, now. Choose discipline over drama, clarity over comfort, mission over mood, silence over noise, execution over explanation. Choose to stop living like life owes you something. It doesn't. Choose to earn your power, to create your own momentum, to leave nothing on the table, because the cost of becoming extraordinary is letting go of being average forever. And if that price scares you, you weren't meant for this path. But if that price excites you, if it lights a fire in your chest, if it reminds you of who you really are, then welcome, you're ready. You're not just here to get rich, you're here to become a mind the world cannot ignore. This is how billionaires think, with precision, with principle, with power, with patience, with pressure, with purpose. And from today on, so do you.